Hey, how we doing today, guys? So, really quickly, I wanted to touch on something. Welcome back to Grub Gains. Thank you for all that jazz. But here's what I want to talk about. I've been getting back into Magic the Gathering. And like I said, I've been gone from Magic the Gathering for 10, 12 years. Getting back into it because a nephew of mine is getting into it. So I undusted all my old cards, made some videos showing some old decks. I have a couple more of those videos waiting to come out. But man, has the Magic community gone nuts. Man, when did we go from being nerds that got together to play a card game to drama and other whiny stuff? But all that aside, let's focus on this thing that actually interested me, and that was this whole Magic the Gathering MTG finance stuff. Wow. Holy smokes, is there some delusion in this marketplace? Okay, let's talk about this in a very real kind of way, alright? And I'm going to grab something to illustrate what I'm talking about. Just a second. Here we go. Sorry, and I'm not going to bother cutting any of this, so deal with the awkward pauses. I walked away to grab the thing I forgot. Collectibles. As a general rule, collectibles are, well, they're collectible. They're expensive. They are what they are. I keep looking over because my screen is actually over here and my camera is over here, so I'm just trying to make sure I stay in focus, and I've been having some trouble with this camera cutting out, so I'm just trying to make sure it's still going. But let's talk about, first of all, unless something has changed while I've been away from Magic, traditionally speaking, the Magic cards that are released in every set are directly correlating to the story, place, and time that is happening inside the storyline of Magic. So if you read the books or anything, I know someone said they don't release the books in the boxes anymore, which is kind of sad to hear. I was actually going to hopefully buy some of those to catch up, but whatever. That's how you did it, okay? You bought the books, you read the stories helped kind of frame, and then the cards filled in the frame of that environment, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now with Dominaria, we're back at the beginning, is my understanding. We've gone all the way back to the beginning of Magic in terms of geographical location, if that makes sense. As hard as it is to understand geography in Planeswalker language, that's what's happened. That's the understanding that I've been given with the rough catch-up that I've been doing online. So, why does this matter when I talk about MTG finance? Well, that's because everybody keeps complaining about the needed reprints, and Wizards has the reserved list, which they say they're not going to print from, and all this nonsense. Let me explain how this could all be remedied, and both sides will be happy, or should be happy, okay? I'm going to use the Mox Diamond. Well, actually, no, I'm not going to use the Mox Diamond. Though the Mox Diamond would be a good example of this. If you have an original Mox Diamond, from the first time Mox Diamond was produced, it's worth, I think the last time I looked it up, it's worth like $800, $900 or more at some websites. Some websites I've seen it go as high as like $1,500, which is a lot of money for a piece of cardboard with some ink on it. Okay, let's be clear, that's a lot of money, but as a collectible it makes sense that it's worth that. Now, I have a Mox Diamond. I do not have an original Mox Diamond. I have a Mox Diamond that was printed later that has pretty much the same artwork, but the borders and things are different. So it's not one of the originals, and therefore my Mox Diamond is only worth like $130. So, does the fact that my Mox Diamond exists destroy the value of the other Mox Diamond? No, not even close. Because I just told you that it's way more expensive to get the other Mox Diamond. So that proves right there, inside the world of Magic, that reprints do not destroy the finance market of Magic the Gathering. Now here's what I'll say. I personally don't like reprints that are exact replicas of the previous card. I don't. I think the artwork is part of what makes it collectible. When I think of Magic cards, I think of them in two very separate ways. There is the card and the art. So the artistry of the card is one aspect, and that's the collectible aspect of the game. Okay? That's the, it's going to go in a folder, and this is my collection. That's what that is. These are worth so much money because of, you know, this. Then there's the actual game part of the game of Magic, the actual playing of Magic, and that has a completely different value spectrum. Okay, there are common cards that are key to decks, but they're common, and the cards are considered worthless. But you can't play the game without them, or you wouldn't think of playing the game without them. Yet they're commons, but they're considered valuable, and they're powerful. Just because a card is expensive doesn't always necessarily mean it's powerful. And a lot of the power of certain cards, they're powerful because they were made at a time when people didn't realize the game would go on for 25 years. And so they weren't worried about how powerful they made things necessarily, because it wasn't that powerful in that time set. But as time went on, it became powerful or overpowered in some states. And the biggest of this controversy seems to be around land cards. So let's talk about another collectible franchise to try to get a grasp on this collectible franchise. I have here a Hot Wheel. Okay? It is an Aston Martin 177. Now, is this the first Aston Martin that Hot Wheels has ever made? Not likely. Is it the last Aston Martin that Hot Wheels will ever make? Not likely. But if they make this Aston Martin, this designated model number with this artwork, okay, and you go and you throw it in a box, and years go by and this becomes valuable. This is a collector because it's an Aston Martin made by Hot Wheels. There are hardly any left. This is it. This is the collector item, right? And then Hot Wheels says, hey, look, now here we're releasing a Aston Martin 177 that's all blue. Yeah, all blue. Does that make this one worthless? Or do the hardcore collectors go, oh man, you got to get that red Aston Martin 177 because that's the one, that's the valuable one, that's the original run, man. Yeah, this stays valuable. But for the people who are playing with their Hot Wheels who want an Aston Martin 177, they can go, oh man, thank God I don't got to spend $3 grand on buying a car to play with. I can just go ahead and buy the green one or blue one or whatever. Well, guess what? It's the same thing with the damn cards. Okay? You don't have to have an original, harbor or an original moat for the card to be playable. That is not an endorsement of proxies. Don't get me crossed. My point is, it would be perfectly okay for Wizards to reprint those cards with updated artwork. Okay? If we're at the point in the storyline where we're talking about these places again because our characters are geographically back in these locations, throw me some new artwork. Just saying. What's wrong with throwing some artwork out there for that? If we're back in the same place and we're going to start telling stories back in these places where we have already been, well, a lot of time has transpired since the last time we visited these places. As the reader, I'm saying. So, what's wrong with us getting a new moat that's updated? It can have the same name, it can be the same powers, all of that's fine. but new artwork. This is the new 2018 artwork, or 2019, or whatever, artwork for this card. That is a way for them to reproduce that card without destroying any of the collector value of that card. And it will make the players of the game happier, because now the players of the game are not trying to compete with the collectors. The collectors will still have their high-valued, highly prized original runs of cards, but players of the game will finally have access to cards that they can play the game with. If Wizards does this, that would solve the issue of people wanting to play with proxies. So then there wouldn't be this huge market for Chinese knockoffs. Then there wouldn't be this division in the community as to whether playing with knockoffs is a okay thing to do or not, which I find hard to believe that's even a conversation. You know, back in the day, if somebody had like self-homemade cards, that was because they had a binder with the actual cards in it, and they just didn't want their original cards getting messed up. And they'd be like, hey dude, you want to prove that my deck is my deck? Here's my binder, here you go. We used to accept that. So, like I said, that's what's going on. That's how ridiculous this whole MTG finance debate really is. The concept of Wizards saying, hey look, we're never going to re-release these cards is incredibly dumb for the company, because let's be honest, the collectors are not the people who generate the most money. The most money and continued health of the company is dependent upon players, because most people don't get into this game to be a collector. They get into the game to be a player and then become a collector along the way. That's the important thing. So unless you want your entire demographic to continuously get older to the point where they're all too old to be collectors because life and, you know, mortality, then this is what you do. That's how you fix the problem. Alright guys, so love it, hate it, whatever, leave your comments down in the towel section. Peanut Gallery, here, let me hear you. But until then, until next time, be good people, have fun doing it, and remember, every day's a good day to make gains.